terms of numbers of women who sit as members of parliament in our House of Commons. We're 43rd in the world because we have only 21% of those people in the House of Commons, those honourable members, happen to be had more women. Would it actually change the political culture in Ottawa to ask questions, and above all, if they are of voting age, that they actually some younger politicians
look, or it will always be better than what we have now. I don't think we can make generalizations like that, but I think accurate reflection
convicted towards working towards a more productive and constructive and respectable parliament. I mean, I've been to question period. I've heard how catty people can be, and that's the men. And the women are, they can throw the punches too. So I don't think it's fair to say that women necessarily be more complacent or passive, if that's what we're supposed to suggest.
To talk about saving face and all of those things. That women would not have conscience, this nonsense of having our
buying votes. Only 1 or 2% of the whole population of Canada are actually members of political parties. And we're talking about, more women candidates. I'd like to see more women involved in the political parties.
Not too long ago, when Belinda Stronach crossed the floor of the House, women in the Liberal Party rose up at a certain point. They were fed up with the blonde bombshell jokes and a lot of the things, and they actually stepped up and said, enough of the sexism in how women in politics are portrayed, especially if they're blonde.
The media play a role in this. What also happens is that the media would prefer to cover conflict, and so that there is this thing, this attraction to comment, who had made one of the most difficult decisions of her life. I mean, when Winston Churchill crossed the floor, people weren't making those kinds of comments, and we just had. I mean, I think it just was that this has gone too far in terms of no one's talking about the difficulty of her making a decision of leaving the party that she run for. Nobody talked about the substance of the policy that she was having trouble with.
I mean, this has been not good for women because people see someone principled, running for a position, and then within a few months switching over to get a cabinet position. This does not stand well, I think, with a lot of women. If she had not been happy with the party, she should have changed party, sat as an independent, not just being bought.
I think that they would vote based on what party that person represented, regardless of their sex, and if their policies and their values spoke to them.
And established power has traditionally consisted of males of a certain background, of a certain class, of a certain age. It tends to discourage women from getting involved in minorities.
Higher levels of women's participation. I don't know if you know this, but in many countries, they're actually very close to 50%. Across the Nordic countries, in Rwanda even, they had a chance to rebuild their country after war. They have 48% women in politics in the national level.
We have to move to some sort of parliamentary reform, so it actually is something that would attract women. We have to move to some sort of electoral reform. We have to move to some sort of party reform. And the thing that I feel the most committed to in terms of what we've been trying to do in my riding is a democracy between elections. That people actually feel that they have the ear of government and can change government's way in terms of real citizen engagement between elections, so that people
have
feel...
had two incumbent female MPs, one being Sheila Copps, who was asked to step aside for Tony Valeri, and recently Jean Augustine, who was an incumbent, and we didn't see too much resistance there for her making way in her seat for this pro-Iraq war male Harvard, American candidate. So that's, right, but
I guess those ridings aren't considered winnable because of our electoral system. But if it was a proportional representation system, those votes, whether it was for the Green Party or the NDP, or if it was for a female candidate, would still be represented in Parliament. And like for instance, the Green Party received over 500,000 votes in their last election, and we didn't elect a single MP.
Why do we have four male leaders again?
In the last 10 years, women who are career-orientated are going into business. I'm happy to see so many CEOs. when you go into politics, you're putting your life in an open book. Many people don't want to. Your family becomes very much part of a public spectrum. I can see that many people don't want to. It's difficult with young children. And so we need to encourage women, but I think it's going to be more difficult when you see people that. When you see a government that is dishonest and a very positive thing, and feels that, well, what could I really do? I mean, I happen to think that, I've made enough speeches at my kitchen table in the last 10 years that I decided I was going to start making them somewhere else.
Get back into it.
Get back into it.
But some people would say, you gotta be nuts.
Well,
to go
my
into
friends have
politics.
actually said something to that.
Right. Is a way of serving the public good, and certainly with environmental causes and all this kind of thing. I mean, there are different ways. Why does it have to be in politics? Why party politics?
Well, I guess I was a family doctor for 20 years, and I adored my job. I got to deliver babies and make house calls and teach at the university, and it was the best job in the whole world.
I would like to know what your views on for paying salaries to parents staying at home.
For the first 3 years of their firstborn's life. So we think that this will enable parents who want to stay home and take care of their kids, but maybe can't afford to do so.
So an extended parental leave.
What you're sort of asking about is maybe our views on the conservative policy of what essentially breaks down to $25 a week for families who do want to stay home. And proposing that as an alternative to a national daycare program. Well, an alternative to what? If the spaces aren't created, it's not creating a daycare program. It's not creating a child care program. It's essentially a tax.
I think the basis of our communities is strong families. And I think that parents know more about how to raise their children than any government agency.
And I was just wondering, NDP are clearly leading in the number of women candidates. However, critics accuse the NDP of dumping women into no-win ridings and saving the safer seats for men.
The NDP policy, actually, we don't dump candidates anywhere. We let the riding associations democratically nominate all their candidates. What our policy does do is we actively recruit female and affirmative action people to be in the running for those candidacies, and we've seen.
About how an election is no time to discuss serious issues. Do you think this still holds true today, and if so, what can be done to change the campaign process?
Have been made over the last 12 years, and very few of them have been kept.
Hi, I'm Ashley Cooper. I'm in grade 12, and my question is, girls and women have to buy hygiene products that men don't, and they have to pay GST. I want all the panelists to comment on whether the GST should be removed from these products.
We have GST on a number of things, including books. I think that books shouldn't be taxed either.
I'm in favor of tax shifting, and what that means is lowering personal income taxes for all people and then shifting those taxes onto things like fossil fuels, whose use actually increases cost to society. Now, the GST we are in favor of, but not on personal hygiene products, not on books for school students.
The NDP traditionally has been advocating for the removal of tax on feminine hygiene products, on books, which is taxing culture essentially.
You raised an excellent point, and that we should look at it. The trouble is the guys then think that their shaving products should come off, but we actually need a conversation about it.
I'm Michelle Block, and I'm in grade 12. So, speaking openly and honestly, would any one of you on stage run for leadership of your respective parties and possibly become prime minister?
Mannerism. I work do my French every morning, but I don't think I'm ready yet.
Okay.
I think that's one of what Carolyn has mentioned about being able to speak both official languages is something that's very important in being a leader.
ਐਸ ਟੈਲੀਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਿੱਘਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ, ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਨਮਸਕਾਰ ਔਰ ਆਦਾਬ। ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੈਵਰਗਲ ਕਾਲਜ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਗਰਲਸ ਦਾ ਕਾਲਜ ਹੈ ਉੱਥੇ ਹਾਂ ਔਰ ਅੱਜ 4 ਮੈਂਬਰ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟਸ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਦੇ ਆਪਸ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਈ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਿਖਾਇਆ। ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਹਾਈ, ਵਾਟਸ ਯੂਰ ਨੇਮ?
Carolyn Campbell.
Carolyn, what's important issue for you in this election?
Mainly trust with the candidates, because the sponsorship scandal just really turned me away from the Liberals. You have to have trust in the government, and if you can't have that, then
Which candidate you think was good in today's discussion?
Carolyn Bennett really knew what she was talking about. She got to the point when she was answering her questions, and she didn't go all over the place, and she was a really good public speaker, I think. Liberal.
You support Liberal?
Yeah.
And so you talk about the corruption and everything.
Well, I mean, all government.
What's the most important issue for you in this election?
Why there's so much time spent in the Commons just fighting at each other and not enough decision making?
What's the important issue for you in this election?
Liberal?
What's the important issue for you?
I have to say the fact that women's numbers are decreasing. I think that's a really important issue, and I think getting women involved in politics is really important.
Do you think that same-sex marriage is an important issue for you in election?
Very much so. I definitely think that it's really important. It's a very important issue for me that...
if you become the Prime Minister of Canada, what changes you would like to bring?
There's so many that I could start with. Definitely a big thing in same-sex marriage. Definitely, I mean, I don't really know. There's just so much to say. There's so much that can be changed, and there's so many disagreeing parties at this point that, like, you don't really...
Which political party do you support?
I would have to say Liberal at this point.
Thank you. Who do you think is up there in this discussion?
I definitely like Carolyn Bennett's answers.
And what is the important issue for you in this election?
What's important to me? The environment, definitely healthcare. They're two of the main issues.
What's your name?
Sabrina McCubbin.
Sabrina, what's the important issue for you in this election?
It's important to me in this election is the economy. I think it's the most important part of the election, and I think we really need to improve our economy and make it more programs for people who are less fortunate and don't have as much to work with. And I think we need to work with more like socialism so that people who aren't as rich have more programs to fall back on.
Women in politics, that you have certain stereotypes, for example, that you have to dress to impress more so than men.
Been taken lightly. And I've never been a rubber stamp for anyone.
Deciding whether you're overdressed or underdressed or all of those things people comment on about whether you're in jeans.
Something that we shouldn't have to waste time focusing on, and we shouldn't have to worry about how we're going to be represented in the media or what people are going to think because we're women. I mean, I love to wear hats. I don't know, maybe we should all be able to wear hats, and take it off and not have to worry about hat or whatnot. But it's just something that we really don't have time to be worried about, and I don't think that we should have that extra pressure of thinking about it.
Faster that again, there's a different standard for Mansbridge and for the women.
All the other things that I could say, but I won't to you.
And sloppy was fine.
Yeah, no, but it's true. I think it's really unfortunate, and I would agree to some extent with Pauline that it really doesn't matter ultimately, because if you've got the brains to do the job, they'll get over it, and they'll get used to you.
Hold any seats in Parliament, but that criteria hasn't applied to other parties like the Reform Party, the Bloc, and even the NDP since 1993. And if you look at the Green Party, we are actually running candidates in 308 ridings, which is something that only the Liberal Party has been able to do. The Bloc doesn't do it, and the Conservatives aren't doing it in this election, and the NDP also have not yet...
burden off of the women and empower them to make those choices, to be able to pursue higher office, to be able to run for government, to be able to... or to choose to stay home, or, so they don't have to make those sacrifices, and if they do, it's not seen as a sacrifice.
Of your own, balancing your school, your education, and your political life, is that a struggle that you actually do have to struggle with?
To take time off from work or time off from school, and that's a luxury that a lot of citizens, especially women, don't have, women with young children, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they don't get involved. But I know that, when you run as a candidate, you have to get signatures from citizens in your riding. And trying to do that while I had 4 exams in 1 week and trying to eat and sleep was
sort of a more tangible measure of your ability to participate. And something that's a standard across Ontario that you all have to do. And I think, coming out of that course, you're probably a lot more familiar and competent voters than, 28-year-olds, 50-year-olds. So I don't know if
I mean, we're able to have this kind of forum with you and speak with you about what's going on. And it's also emphasized by the media, and I think that if upon completion, most students would be able to vote accurately with a good idea of what's going on and a good opinion.
Top?
Brooke, how did you like this exercise? Talking to the would-be member of parliament.
It was really interesting, and I felt they wanted to know what I had to say.
So, and it was interesting to see them listen to us, ask questions about why women aren't in politics as much.
What's the most important issue for you in this election?
The state of the future state of our environment.
Do you want to be the Prime Minister of Canada?
No, I don't. But I'd like to be involved in a party, perhaps.
What's your name?
I'm Airly.
What do you think about today's exercise?
I think it was great. I think we all learned a lot, and I felt like they actually wanted to hear what we had to say, and I think it was really great to hear, how they interacted with each other and hear about the issues, really.
Do you want to be the Prime Minister of Canada?
No, I don't think so.
Why?
It's just so much pressure. But I think it's great for young people to get involved. So I think I want young women to get involved.
We are really pleased with this event. This was a chance for young women to come out and talk about the issues that they care about, talk about women's role in politics and what can be done for the future to increase participation. The main aim of the Democracy Project is to try and bring youth opinions into the discussion and really give them a chance to interact with the different candidates and present their own views to the different parties and also to the media as well.